Is Justin Fields likely gone out of Chicago after this season? Let's dive into today's show. I'm Harrison Graham for Bears Now by Chat Sports. Let's get into it here. Dianna Russini, Colin, Cowherd discussed a variety of topics, including Jim Harbaugh, by the way. Go check out our video from Thursday morning. Subscribe and go look at that one. But let's talk about Fields here. Here's what Dianna had to say on Cowherd's show the other day. She said, I don't believe it's been finalized in terms of a decision of moving on from Fields. Anytime you talk to somebody in the Chicago organization, they'll tell you, quote, we're still evaluating. Kevin Warren has been brought in there. He's trying to take the time to look at all of it, the quarterback position, the coaching staff, and then really try to make an unemotional decision in how he sees the Bears organization to not only have success in the short term, but in the long term. For me, from staying on that story, I do think Chicago moves on from not only their head coach, but I do see them also getting in that quarterback market and then seeing where Justin Fields goes next. There's two big factors for Fields' future in Chicago. Number one, how does he play down the stretch? We've talked about that for a couple of weeks. I'd say mixed results so far, kind of more the same. I do think he's improved this year as a passer. I really do, and I think the numbers suggest that. How does he play over the final 5 weeks? And number two, do the Bears land that number one overall pick or even a top 2 pick to be in position to draft a quarterback? Well, I think they're going to be in there. Like, there's a tiny scenario where Arizona and New England are picking 1 and 2, I guess, but does anybody really think Carolina is going to win 2 games down the stretch? That would shock me. And even then, as long as Arizona or New England wins one more time, Carolina's strength of schedule is so bad, they're going to have the tiebreaker. So the Bears are going to be in the top 2 and probably number 1 overall. So that's the dilemma that Ryan Poles faces. We're going to talk about different scenarios, pros and cons of trading versus keeping Fields, drafting a quarterback, all that good stuff. Do want to ask you this first. Are you still in on Justin Fields at this exact moment? Type I for in, type O for out. Pin comment on today's show. If you get hit with an ad break right now, type an I for in, O for out. After the YouTube ad break plays, we'll continue this conversation. Now, you look at Justin Fields and how he's played this year. Obviously, he missed the 4.5 games or so with that thumb injury. There's no doubt he's improved. The completion percentage is up over 4 percentage points from last year. The passing yards is up in terms of per game, although it's not a huge number. It's up. 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He's rushed for 400 yards and a touchdown, so he's still getting it done on the ground. Now, the fumbling is still a bit of an issue, although it's not as bad as it was last year. Keeping Fields isn't a bad option. Like, he has improved. Now, has he improved enough to the point where, like, I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback for the next decade in the NFL? I wouldn't say that. I still believe in his talent that he could get there. Is he there now? No. He's not a top 10 quarterback in this league. But keeping him isn't bad. Why? Because if you use those 2 picks in the top 7 or wherever you're going to be to add a couple more studs to this football team, I actually think with better coaching, even if the roster is just a little bit better next year, you're a playoff team. Like, if you didn't melt down against Detroit and Denver, you're 6-6 right now, knocking on the doors of the playoffs this season. Like, I definitely think with the right coaching and direction, you could be a playoff team next year. The question for Ryan Poles is, will he do the same thing twice? Will he get the number 1 pick twice in a row, which is unheard of for a general manager in this league, and pass on a quarterback both times? That just seems unlikely to me. I could be wrong. I'd be fine if I was wrong. I'm cool with keeping Justin. I'm also intrigued by Caleb Williams. I'm intrigued by Drake May. I'm open to all scenarios. I just personally find it hard to believe that Poles would pass on the opportunity to draft a quarterback. That's just an opinion of mine of what I think he would do, not necessarily what I would do. I'm conflicted. I really am. I see both sides of it. We're going to get into the pros and cons of both sides of that in a moment. Caleb Williams and Drake May are very intriguing prospects. They also didn't finish this season that strong. So does that play a big role in it? I don't know. They've got, Caleb's got 2.5 years of really good play under his belt. Drake May's been a 2-year starter where he's played at a very high level. Like, are we supposed to be like, well, their final 2, 3, 4 games this year weren't spectacular. They were still good. It's tough, man. There's a lot to evaluate there, not just how they played off the field stuff. There's been a lot of talk about Caleb Williams. Can he handle a market like Chicago with his mindset? I don't know. Drake May, has like a small town feel, vibe going on playing college football at North Carolina. Can he handle the bright lights? I think he can. I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting. And coming up, we're going to get into the pros and cons of the Justin Fields options of keeping him and building around him or moving on and drafting a quarterback. There's pros and cons to both. There really are, and we will dive into those here in just a moment. But pros and cons, a lot of pros with PrizePicks because it's fun, it's easy, and you can make some money with the easiest and most fun daily fantasy sports app out there. It is PrizePicks. Create your account today at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Why do you put /CLNS in there and plug in the promo code CLNS? Because they're going to give you a deposit match up to $100. That way, if you miss on a couple picks, you got more money to play with. I love this 5-quarterback little 5-piece entry I've got this weekend for college football. Allen, Bowman, less on the passing yards. Oklahoma State likes to run the football. I think they're going to do that. I'm going to go Deacon Hill less. I know it's a low number for a quarterback, but Iowa really struggles offensively. Bo Nix, give me the more on his passing yards. I think with the win over Washington, he wins the Heisman. Michael Penix Jr., less on his passing yards. And then Jalen Milroe, more on his passing yards as well. I think he'll put up some numbers against Georgia because if they're down late, he's going to rack in some garbage time stats. And if they're in the game, that probably means he plays well. So I do think he is going to hit that more there. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. It's PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. Go check them out today. Link is in the comments and in the description. Okay, let's start with the Fields part of this, of keeping him. Pros and cons of keeping Justin Fields. Pro, he knows the offense. He knows the team. Now, the coaching could change, but, players on this team are going to be the same in a lot of regard. You're going to have 3 or 4 of the same offensive linemen. Hopefully you add a center. We'll see on left tackle. DJ Moore is going to be here. We'll talk about him a little bit more in a sec. Cole Kmet, he's been within this franchise for a while. He's entering 4th year in the league, 4th year with the Bears. I think there's something to that of bringing back someone who's been around. And he's got great chemistry with DJ Moore, man. Say what you want about Justin Fields and his game as a passer. He and DJ Moore have a real connection. If you can get that second big-time weapon on the outside, say a Marvin Harrison Jr., to pair with those two, that could really unlock this passing attack even more. Cons, well, you could miss out on a great quarterback. We're already potentially seeing that with C.J. Stroud. Caleb Williams, Drake May, they could be the next great thing in this league. We don't know, but they could. It's very unique to pick number 1 overall. So to pass on that opportunity, that could turn out into a bad decision. Number 2, he is still inconsistent as a passer. And just not necessarily just literally throwing the football, but just kind of getting through all the progressions. I do think he's improved there. I do think he sees the field better, but there are times still where he holds the football on too long, which leads to fumbles and sacks at times. That has to improve. And another con, too, is the rookie contract, we're getting closer to the end than the beginning. Now, you still have next year, 2025, could be a 5th-year option at around $20 million per year. That's not going to backbreak you, but obviously the pro of drafting a quarterback, which we'll get to in a second, is you reset the contract, right? If you think Caleb Williams can be Justin Fields and then some, well, there's appeal to that because you're starting over in year 1 versus year 4 with Justin. So the contract side of it absolutely is going to play a big role. There's no doubt about it. Now, subscribe to the channel. We are going to update you on every Bears quarterback discussion that goes on from here through the off season. So hit that sub button. You're not going to want to miss out. This isn't the first time we've talked about it, and it damn sure ain't going to be the last. I like Justin Fields. I'm cool with keeping him, but if rumors are percolating, we're definitely going to be talking about it. Pros and cons of moving on from Fields and drafting a quarterback. What I just said, it resets the rookie contract clock. You start fresh. That is definitely a pro, especially if you hit on said quarterback. Number 2, you could sync him up with a new head coach, something this franchise has not done very well. What did they do with Justin? They screwed over Justin, man. They kept Nagy and Pace when they should have been fired, let them draft a quarterback, and then canned them a year later. That is not how you operate, man. That is not how you grow success. And then number 3, obviously, just drafting one, it gives you a chance to draft a top quarterback. Just like it was a chance when you drafted Mitch, just like it was a chance when you drafted Justin. It's not a guarantee, but it's a chance. Con, If Fields becomes great elsewhere, which is my biggest fear, you trade him to Atlanta, he becomes a superstar. You trade him somewhere else, he becomes awesome. That would suck, man. Because for a franchise that has not had a legit top-tier franchise quarterback, it would be so painful to see Justin Fields go somewhere else and become that guy. Number 2, there's always bust potential. The thing with Justin Fields is he's not a bust. His floor is fairly high. He can do things. He's going to move the football. He's a great runner. He's a great downfield thrower. Like, yes, he has faults in his game, but there's a pretty decently elevated floor there where you can work with something there. That is not true for a lot of quarterbacks that come into this league. And then number 3, at least in the short term, I think it could be different because this roster, I think, is trending in the right direction, and this is a unique situation where you get the number 1 pick, but it's not really the number 1 pick because you have someone else's pick. You're not the worst team in football, but rookie quarterbacks rarely go to the playoffs, and the ones that do are like the Brock Purdys that were not drafted high up, and they are born into a perfect situation. This is a tough call for Ryan Poles, man. It really is, and that's why I think he just wants a clear answer either way at the end of the season. And unfortunately, I don't think it's clear. I think it's muddy. I think it's tricky because the good with Justin Fields is plenty good enough. The bad is not good enough. That's the problem. So if it continues to be inconsistent, I still think he'll draft a quarterback. But if it gets cleaned up, if they go on a little bit of a run here and win some games, that could continue to muddy the water. So it's going to be interesting. Dianna Russini thinks it's trending in that direction, but she said it has not been finalized by any means. We'll see. It's a big 5 or 6 weeks coming up for Justin Fields. What would you do? Would you draft a quarterback or would you keep JF1? Type D for draft or just type JF1 for keeping Fields. Tough call, man. It really is. It really is. I think you have a better chance to make the playoffs next year if you keep Fields and use those picks on other pieces. Long term, though, you probably have a better chance to chase Super Bowls if you draft a quarterback and if that guy becomes a superstar. It's hard to say, man. It really, really is. All right, give me a follow on Twitter at HGramNFL. Always down to continue the conversation with you. So DM me. DMs are always open. Give me a follow. We'll talk some more Bears football over there.